I screwed up. This video was already made, and I find out a week later, hours from release, that half of what I said was wrong. So here's a last minute fix. Let's roll the tape. How is EverQuest 2 for new players in 2023? Let's talk about what you need to know. What's the good and the bad? The most important decision you'll ever make playing EQ2 is what server you pick. EQ2 basically has two choices. Option A, the free-to-play servers, and they just recently released the 19th expansion as of this video. Do not play there if you're new. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're mostly empty servers. Population only goes up when the few max level players raid log. It's a ghost town otherwise. And there's a humongous amount of catching up you'd have to do. Option B, what you should do, progression servers. They start from the base game and unlock all the later expansions over time. So right now, the newest server is Varsoon, which is just in the second expansion as of January 2023, and each expansion lasts for around 4 months. The next one's going to unlock in April of 2023. Varsoon might be the most populated EQ2 server right now, and I just love playing here. There's problems though. It's not free. It's a premium server requiring a subscription. And also, the server's been going on for almost a year now. A lot of people are already at max level and exclusively raid log, just like the free-to-play servers. But there are a few people still leveling up from scratch, and the most reliable time to find them is during bonus experience holidays. Everybody rolls alts then. And another benefit is that Varsoon has the least amount of catching up. You could get near max level in around 2-3 days of bonus experience. Why the heck do people play these servers, just rehashing old content over the new stuff? There's a few reasons. I think one is that the newest expansions are mostly copy-paste. Since World of Warcraft basically killed EverQuest, I'll have a video link for that in the comments and description, the money just isn't there to fund some groundbreaking, innovative expansion like there used to be. The first few expansions had that big budget and vision to deliver, but when everyone left to play WoW, the money dried up. Now the EverQuest franchise is on life support. Thousands still play, and the developers do keep it going with new content, but the writing's on the wall. EverQuest's best years are behind it. But reliving those best years can be done on progression servers, and it's an awesome experience. Another reason people play on these servers is nostalgia, of course, wanting to relive old memories, but for me, it's a different reason. I didn't know what I was doing when I was like 10 years old playing this. I never really played it. And I think the best time you'll have playing any progression server, from EQ1 to EQ2 to even WoW Classic, moving into Wrath of the Lich King, it's the first time you do it that's the best. Fresh eyes. This server is a first opportunity for many people. Let's talk about the good and bad of the 3 expansions we've had so far on Varsoon. What are they like for a new player? What would you want to know? The vanilla base game was called the Shattered Lands. It's a reference to how a great cataclysm ripped apart the continents of the world as it was. If you'd like a deeper dive into the lore, I'll leave a link for that in the description and comments as well. Just a million links here. How would I rate vanilla EQ2? 5 out of 10. Not bad, but not great either. The max level is 50, and you have 24 classes that are all viable out the gate, unlike the first game. Starting out, all the tanks have adequate tools to hold threatened groups and can all function in raids. Healers are the single biggest improvement from the first game. The days of sitting down 90% of the time are gone. Healing is much more active, and you have damaging abilities to throw in the mix. Lastly, the damage classes have more to do beyond auto attack. Many of them bring important debuffs that make certain raid bosses even possible. The mistake I made with take 1 of this video is I thought that vanilla EQ2 and the first expansion had no quest chains. When I first leveled up months ago, I bolted past all these quest givers because I thought they weren't worth your time. There was nothing pointing me to do these quests. So I exclusively used dungeons to go from 20 up to max level, and I felt bitter about it because I passed through these beautiful outdoor zones. I wanted to explore them, but there was no reason to. Instead, the normal way to level is to be stuck in claustrophobic dungeons the whole time. It wasn't satisfying. It was grind for the sake of grind. It also made gearing suck. You would quickly outlevel your gear and the dungeon drops weren't enough to replace your stuff. God forbid you're a tank who must have updated gear to just even survive, just to do your job. Fast forward the day this video is supposed to release. I'm leveling up a second crew and come to find out that there were quest chains the whole time. There was a reason to explore these overworld zones, and you could keep appropriately geared by doing that. So I realized the 5 to 10 minutes I spent railing Vanilla EQ2 in the first edit was wrong, thus the last minute remake here. The original starter zones of Antonica and Common Lands were made obsolete. The later addition of the Hallis and Neriak starting areas became the default. So you do levels 1 through 20 there and you get your fully geared and a mount. Then I found going 20 to 30 was just brutal. It lacked any clear direction of what to do, so I ended up grinding it out with mobs and it was pretty slow. Past level 30 is a big improvement. The game is not intuitive though. I only found out about zone quest chains a year after I started because I researched the EQ2 wiki for each zone, and it's not even on the front page. You have to click the timeline button just to see what they do. You shouldn't have to research off a third-party website to figure this crap out. It was dead obvious what the zone's quest chain was in WoW and Elder Scrolls Online, but not so with this game. It's a bad design, honestly. And this leads to the next part. These quests are supposed to be soloable. I feel like if I try to do these quests with just a single character, it would be a slog. And the quests towards the end aren't soloable at all because you need to take down group difficulty mobs. And these end quests are really important because they upgrade generally your chest and your legs, your most important gear slot. Good luck getting help from rando players to do these too, because no one's going to be on the same step as you. And that's if you can even find anyone. I couldn't find anyone when I was playing. The only thing that made these quest chains viable was boxing, and boxing is when you play multiple characters yourself. Without the extra DPS, killing stuff would just take too long or not even be possible, and without me controlling them, it'd be impossible to coordinate and keep everyone on the same quest step. It made the grind enjoyable, but it's all so bittersweet that you gotta pay like 2 to 3 times the money just to get this experience. Even after completing the quests, I usually needed about 5 to 6 more levels before I can move on to the next area, to the next quest chain, so I had to grind it out in dungeons. The one redeeming grace though for EQ2 dungeons is that they're more dynamic. So in EQ1 you just set up shop at one spot and stay there for hours. And I didn't realize how stale that would get, but in EQ2 dungeons are meant to be crawled through and explored. It's a better design. But if you had to solo, it would be dreadfully slow. The early game was designed for you to group, except it's hard to find anyone unless you're within 10 levels below max level. And I think this is where most people quit and burn out. I hope the quest chains coming in Echoes of Fade can solve this soloing problem, but this is easily the worst part of vanilla EQ2. If you hit a brick wall leveling up, you're probably going to quit. Overall, I give vanilla EQ2 a 5 out of 10 because it improves on many of the design problems with the first game. It's a nice place to check out, but it's not intuitive to know what to do. Now, for the sponsor of this video, Allstate Farmers. Did you know that with 15 minutes you could save 15 cents on eyeglass insurance? Say you break your glasses, you can call up Allstate Farmers to pay 15 cents less than what you would do at your eye doctor's office. Sign up today. Please start $2,000 a month with a $10,000 deductible. Offer only valid until midnight. The first expansion of EverQuest 2, Desert of Flames. I rate it 3 out of 10. Ugh. Why? This expansion boosts the level cap from 50 to 60 and is intended for those levels. It is a remake of the Desert of Ro from EverQuest 1, finally rediscovered after hundreds of years. All the classes get 2 new abilities. Some are meh, others are really good. Gearing wasn't that bad because many people were farming group instances, which dropped a lot of loot. Loot that was just a hair short of raid drops, actually. A lot of cheap stuff is for sale in the broker, but not much was worth questing for. The lore of the signature quest line was interesting. You join this secret club, the Peacock Club, that's investigating an artifact called the Ewer of Life. It can grant immortality, but with a twist. Before it was the Desert of Ro, this area was a forest. It was the original home of the elves of Norath. But one of the gods, Solisek Ro, raised a mountain range that cut off all the rain and turned this area into a desert that we see now. Almost all the elves fled, except for a small contingent who forsook their god and creator of Tunair to worship the goddess of life called Enashti Sul. These elves renamed themselves the Suldal. When the forest turned to desert, the Suldal believed that the Ewer of Life would save them, so they stayed put in their city. But the Ewer of Life didn't grant immortality like they imagined. Enashti Sul wasn't the goddess of life, but rather undeath. The Suldal became immortal because they were undead. In this expansion, you rediscover the Suldal city, which is buried under the sands, and you work to destroy the Ewer of Life so that its curse of undeath won't spread into the world at large. There's 2 overworld zones that are beautiful. The concept for these zones laid out in 1999, but years later, they were able to deliver as the computer graphics improved. This is what they wanted to make in 1999. The Sinking Sands has the look of a Saharan desert with giant dunes, but I think Pillars of Flame is one of the most beautiful zones in game. It looks like they take inspiration from the Mojave and Sonoran deserts with the mesas and red sandstone. So why is this expansion a 3 out of 10? Because just like vanilla, these overworld zones are not intuitive. Instead, everyone spends 99% of their time in small instance dungeons. There's no reason to explore Sinking Sands. Your gear coming into this expansion is better than any of the crap the quest chains there give you. Then you get to Pillars of Flame. It does have quests that can upgrade your stuff, except you wouldn't know that unless you researched it on third-party websites. But that quested gear isn't as good as the instance drop, so why even do the quest chains? The signature questline has some steps in the Sinking Sands, but they have no substance. The signature questline is almost all in a dreary underground dungeon. And when I look at Pillars of Flame, this zone makes me angry. How can you make this beautiful zone and not use it? Absolute failure in design, except it's worse. This was a full-priced expansion. Well, it's free now, but this was a full-priced expansion that had a lot less content to do than even vanilla EQ2. I only had at most 2 to 3 days worth of content. It was so bad that I didn't even bother playing after I got max level. I just let my subscription lapse and waited the 3 months until expansion 2 came out. I'm adding this in late for context, but EverQuest 2 was supposed to follow up the best game so far in the MMO genre. It was released shortly before World of Warcraft in 2004, and it had a really rocky launch, because nobody could frickin' run this thing on their computer, amongst other issues. So instead, everyone went to play WoW in 2004. A potato could run it. Fast forward to late 2005, EQ Studio is freaking out because of all the thousands of people who left, all the subscriptions they lost. And guess what they do? They released this pile of crap called Desert of Flames. It was disappointing, because what could have been if EQ got the numbers that WoW did? MMO history would be completely different if EverQuest didn't destroy itself with mistakes. But be that as it may, back with the video. Kingdom of Sky is the first good expansion I've played so far. I rank it a 7 out of 10. And expansions 3 and 4, Fadewar and Kunark, are even better. Many people consider these 3 expansions to be the best EQ2 ever made. People play these progression servers just for these 3 expansions. Let's talk why. In Kingdom of Sky, the level cap is raised from 60 to 70. And there's another way to grow, with 50 alternate advancement points that you can earn. This expansion is meant for players in their mid-50s up to 70. This all takes place in what was a raid zone called Plane of Sky in EQ1. It's turned into 3 beautiful overworld zones with different aesthetics: jungle, desert, and apocalypse. The zones look great, but not as good as the prior expansion in my opinion. But there's one thing they do that Desert of Flames didn't, and it's why I rank it 7 out of 10 in a moment. The lore of this expansion is that the Kanos Claymore is stolen. This seemingly innocuous sword that's kept as a monument is actually more powerful and ancient than it appears. You're tasked with finding it and bringing it back. You're led on a search for clues through all the zones until you help recover the sword finally. Meanwhile, facing off with legendary dragons from EQ1. The lore, it's average. What this expansion does so damn well is it finally uses its zones. There are quest chains that give you great gear, but more importantly, these quests encourage you to explore all these zones to their fullest. They lead you along from area to area, and this is something that was never done in the prior expansions, and it's criminal it wasn't. The solo quest chain gives you a full set of gear and a cloud mount by taking you through the overland zones, and the signature Claymore quest line takes you through all the dungeons. A little bit much if you ask me. The dungeons worth their welcome quite fast. But this was the first time where the best way to level wasn't grinding it out in cramped dungeons. The best way to level was just doing the quests. I easily got to max level by the time I finished the Cloud Mount quests and around halfway through the Claymore ones. I got a good solid month of play out of this expansion, where it was 2 to 3 days for the last one. Now looking towards the future, stuff that hasn't happened yet. Echoes of Fadewar opens up in April of 2023. It doesn't raise the level cap, so it's still 70, but it adds 50 more AA points you can earn. It fixes the ambiguity of what to do from level 20 to 50, where there's no obvious quest chain stringing you along and keeping you geared. It has quests that take you from 1 up to max level 70 without even leaving the continent. And lastly, the whole reason I'm playing on this server is for the expansion that follows in August, Rise of Kunark. I think this might be that 10 out of 10 expansion. It reimagines many people's favorite EQ1 expansion, Runes of Kunark, but even better. It gives you those quest chains again that encourage exploration of all these beautiful remake of Kunark zones, and adds the signature weapons for each class, the epic weapon, and its associated quest. Thank you so much if you watched this far. I'm going to link a parallel video that Bare Necessities put out about a veteran's take on EQ2. Be sure to check that out.